SHIRANUI is a pretty old archetype that has dominated Duel Links in 2019 and 2020. This fire zombie-based synchro archetype loves being banished, and their most iconic feature is to synchro summon by banishing from the graveyard with the effect of SHIRANUI Spectral Sword. What makes SHIRANUI so threatening is their ability to make their annoying synchro boss monsters turn after turn with their remarkable follow-up ability. And Sun Saga is one of the hardest monsters to get rid of back in the day when this deck was top tier. Let's go through the cards one by one. Starting with SHIRANUI Solitaire, you can tribute a zombie type monster to special summon a zombie type tuner with 0 defense from your deck, and also when this card is banished, you can special summon a banished SHIRANUI monster. This is your main way of recovery by summoning your SHIRANUI monsters that are banished, and it also gets you your SHIRANUI Spectral Sword from your deck. SHIRANUI Squire, this card when normal summons, you can special summon a SHIRANUI Spectral Sword from your deck or hand, and also it locks you into zombie monsters for the rest of the turn. When this card is banished, you can draw a card and then discard a card. So this is your main starter. It gets you to your SHIRANUI Spectral Sword, and it doesn't require you to tribute a monster, so you can immediately make a level 6 synchro monster. Next is a SHIRANUI Samurai. During either player's turn, you can banish a zombie monster from your graveyard, and this card gains 600 attack, and you can also banish any monster that battle this card. When this card is banished itself, you can recycle any SHIRANUI monster from your graveyard. So this card can get rid of your opponent's monsters without targeting, and also without destroying, really useful against some boss monsters, and also it helps you recover your SHIRANUI monsters from your graveyard. We are playing 3 copies of SHIRANUI Spirit Master. When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon a SHIRANUI from your hand or graveyard, but it is banished when it leaves the field. When this card is banished, you can destroy a face-up card on the field. This is really useful as removal for a deck, and also to combo with another card that we will talk about later. Samurai Skull, other copy of starter. When it is normal summoned, you can send a zombie from your deck to your graveyard, and when this card leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon a level 4 or lower zombie monster from your deck. So it doesn't special summon Spectral Sword to your field, but it does send it to the graveyard, which will be useful to use its graveyard effect. First, we'll talk about Spectral Sword first. If this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it is sent, you can target a non-tuner zombie monster in your graveyard, banish both cards, and perform a synchro summon with those 2 cards, and it must be a zombie type monster. And it doesn't actually treat it as a synchro summon; it's treated as a special summon. So, but all of your SHIRANUI monsters do have effects when they are special summoned instead of being synchro summoned, so that doesn't really matter. 1 copy of Spectral Sword Shade. This is our level 3 tuner, and instead of having a graveyard effect, it has an on-field effect to tribute itself to special summon 2 zombie type monsters from your banished zone, including a SHIRANUI monster, and it is negated, and also you can't summon monsters except for zombie monsters. This is your second way of getting your banished monsters back to your field, and it gets 2 of them at a time, but their effects are negated, and also it locks you to zombies. And for back row, we are playing triple copies of World Legacy Clash. This is not only a really good free-to-play staple overall, it is also really, really good in this deck specifically, because its effect has a banish clause in it. So it pairs really, really well with cards like Spirit Master. If you have it on your field, you can activate World Legacy Clash during your opponent's turn to proc the pop effect of your Spirit Master. And also it helps you survive, which is really, really useful in this deck, because this deck is not very good against OTKs, but really, really good in the grind game, so this card helps you stall your opponent from getting a quick win. So you can set up your graveyard and do your big SHIRANUI combo next turn. And next up we have 3 copies of Providence, just a really good counter trap overall. For our extra deck, we're playing a single copy of Squire Saga. Occasionally you will need this card, although you won't need it very often. It does destroy a monster and a back row without targeting, and also because it needs a banish for its effect, it does trigger your banish effects of your SHIRANUI monsters. We're playing 1 copy of Samurai Saga as our level 6 synchro. It has 2500 attack, nothing much to say about it. Archfiend Zombie Skull, that is another level 6 zombie monster, and you can't synchro summon it using your normal synchro rules because it needs Plague Spreader Zombie as its material. You will special summon it to your field using the effect of Spectral Sword because it ignores the summon conditions and just special summons it, and is really useful to protect your monsters from being destroyed by card effects. Next up is SHIRANUI Shogun Saga at level 8. We're playing 2 copies. When this card is special summoned, you can banish a zombie type monster from graveyard, and this card gains attack equal to the attack of the banished monster. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can return a zombie type monster with 0 defense to your graveyard from your banished pile. Really important effect to get your Spectral Sword back to the graveyard so you can use its effect later on with banishing itself and Shogun Saga to make Sun Saga. When this card is special summoned, you can return any number of your zombie synchro monsters that are banished or in a graveyard back to the extra deck, and you can target the same number of cards of your opponent controls and destroy them. Even though I said target just then, it doesn't actually target. And also, one thing to note about this card is that you have to destroy an equal amount of cards. So if your opponent only has 1 card on field and you have 2 synchro monsters that you returned back to the extra deck, you cannot pop any cards. So if you want to pop your opponent's card, you can only return 1 synchro monster back to the extra deck. Otherwise, you just can't pop any cards at all. And also, it has a really annoying effect that if any zombie monsters you control will be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish a SHIRANUI monster from the graveyard instead. So basically, it turns your entire graveyard into Salamangreat Balanix. And we're playing 2 copies of this card because it recycles itself. So if you summon one and then it gets banished, destroyed, you can summon the other one, and it recycles the first one, and also any other synchros that you have, and it just loops itself. Really, really good. And also we're playing a copy of Pentastab just because it's good to have a generic link in our deck. So this is the expensive version of the deck. We are still pretty much playing the same amount of SHIRANUI cards, but we're playing Triple Squire because it's our best starter. We're not playing any Samurai Skull because instead we're playing Ghost Meets Girl, a SHIRANUI story. So this card is a spell, quick play spell. If your opponent controls a monster, you can discard a zombie to special summon a SHIRANUI from your deck or graveyard. And also you can't special summon any monsters except for zombie monsters. It is really useful as both a starter and also as follow-up, because it does revive your synchro monsters, which is really huge. We're playing IDP and Warning Point as our staples instead of World Legacy Clash, because they're just good cards overall. And extra deck-wise, we are playing the Nightmares instead of Pentastag, and we're not playing Squire Saga, because that card isn't really used that much. But it's always good to have in the cheap version, because we don't really have the good Nightmare cards anyway. Okay, so the pros and cons of the deck. Pros: 1. This deck is consistent. Squire, Solitaire, and Samurai Skull all give you access to Spectral Sword, plus a monster for it to banish. And the expensive version also has Ghost Meets Girl as extra copies of Searchers. 2. This deck is insane at follow-up. The graveyard effect of Spectral Sword, the banish effect of Solitaire and Samurai, and also the on-field effect of Spectral Sword's Shade form an insane advantage loop that gives you constant access to the deck's synchro monsters turn after turn. 3. The synchro monsters are annoying. Archfiend Zombie Skull protects all your monsters from effect destruction, Shogun Saga has high attack and also floats, and Sun Saga turns your entire graveyard into Balonix. The cons: 1. This deck needs time to set up. While this deck is insanely good in the grind game, if your opponent beats you in one turn before you can even activate the effect of Spectral Sword once, there's not really a lot you can do. While this can be solved by just playing a whole bunch of staple back row, this also makes the deck a lot less good in the grind game. 2. This deck loses hard to graveyard banishes. Despite being a banish-focused deck, having your Spectral Sword banished by something like an Infernite monster will lose you the game. 3. This deck is vulnerable against non-destruction removal. You have tons of protection against destruction effects, but staples like Compulse or IDP, or also extra deck monsters like a Nightmare Unicorn will get rid of your boss monsters. So overall, I quite like this deck, and I think it is still one of the best decks for new players to get. Just please don't play the heavy back row version. Okay, so we are going first for our first duel. And we have drawn Samurai Skull. We'll normal summon Samurai Skull, activate its effect. We're gonna pitch a Solitaire because we have already drawn our copy of Spectral Sword. We're gonna set 2, our opponent's gonna Dark Hole, that's fine because it has a floating effect. We can summon a Spectral Sword from our deck, and our opponent is going to begin his Goki combo, but thankfully he didn't draw his Suprex, and instead he has a Headbat, which we can negate with our Providence. And then we can activate the effect of Spectral Sword from our graveyard, making a copy of Archfiend Zombie Skull, and then Solitaire will summon back our Spectral Sword, making a Shogun Saga. Shogun Saga will banish our Synchro from our graveyard, which is barely enough for a lethal, but we are still 100 off. We could have won if we made Samurai Saga to lower our opponent's attack, but anyway, our opponent is quick Dark Hole. We're gonna float back our Spectral Sword to our graveyard, and then we're gonna bash it again, make Sun Saga, shuffle back only one Synchro because our opponent only has one card on his field. If we shuffled 2 of our Synchros, we can't pop his field because he only has 1, and he is going to scoop. So this is the expensive version of the deck. We are also going first this time. So we have drawn Squire, which is very, very nice. We're gonna normal summon it, special summon Spectral Float from our deck, make a level 6 Synchro, and set 2, and pass turn. Our opponent is playing Mechanites. We're gonna Warding Point his normal summon, hoping that it ends his turn, but he does have a set card plus a purple Nightfall. He's going to search a Blue Sky, which he summons an Indigo Eclipse first, moves it over, and summons a Blue Sky. And then he's going to search Red Moon, and then he's linking them both off to a Morning Star. He's going to discard the Red Moon that he searched to grab a Secret. And during the end phase, we'll activate SHIRANUI's Story, summoning a Solitaire for us to use next turn. We're going to activate its effect. He's going to work with his Secret, and even though Solitaire already left the field, he can still be negated if he summons a monster during Effectual Resolution, if it's in the same column. Anyway, we can still use the effect of Spectral Sword, making a copy of Archfiend Zombie Skull, and then making a Shogun Saga. He's gonna negate. We probably shouldn't have placed it on that zone. And then we're gonna attack. And he's gonna work on the same memory, bring back a Nightfall, and search a Yellow Star. And then he's gonna activate the effects of both Pearl Nightfalls to bring them both back. He's gonna try to make rank 8. But he can't actually destroy our monsters because Archfiend Zombie Skull prevents our monsters from being destroyed by card effects. So he's gonna attack over our Samurai, our Shogun Saga, and then we're gonna bring back our banished copy of a Spectral Sword, and then activate its effect again, making our copy of Sun Saga. And he's going to the Warning Point, which is fine. We're gonna set our second copy of IDP and pass. He's going to attempt to destroy Sun Saga, which we will banish Solitaire, and bring back our Shogun Saga. Yeah, probably should have summoned Shogun Saga in the middle column, but it doesn't matter at this point. He's gonna activate his skill, Tidal Binds, attack over Sun Saga, and end turn, because he can't actually beat over our Shogun Saga. We're gonna Squire, get our second copy of Spectral Sword, and our second copy of Sun Saga, and that is why we play 2 copies. We're gonna shuffle back our first copy of Sun Saga, and 2 more Synchros, attempt to wipe his board, and he scoops. So I just really like this deck, even though it's already a lot less good than it was back when it was tier 1. It is still a pretty fun deck if you don't play too many back row. It is quite fun to make Synchro monsters turn after turn, and also Sun Saga is already a lot less toxic than it was before, because we have a lot of outs to that card right now, and also we still don't have access to the level augmentation that we used to have before that doesn't require a life point cost. So overall, this is still a pretty good deck for new players to invest in.